There are trees alive right now, planted before your great-great-grandparents were born, still feeding families today. One planting, hundreds of years of food, and almost nobody is growing them anymore. Here is what they never taught you. The most powerful food system in human history did not run on supermarkets. It did not run on weekly grocery trips. It ran on plants that went in the ground once and simply never stopped producing. If food systems collapse tomorrow, these are what survive. The plants you are about to see fed pharaohs, fueled Olympic athletes, built the Silk Road, outlived entire empires. And right now, they are sitting in the ground somewhere, feeding no one, because the modern world quietly moved on from them. The plants that feed the longest are the ones nobody sells. Welcome to Sacred Root Co. This is Perennial Power, 10 plants you put in the ground once and harvest free for the rest of your life. 2 warnings before we begin. Plant number 6. Most homesteaders walk right past it. 6,000 years of feeding civilizations. Grows in almost any soil. Once established, it is nearly impossible to stop. You will want this one. Plant number 9. Do not leave before you reach it. It has been feeding the same families for over 400 years. Not 50. 400. One planting. 4 centuries of food. Nobody talks about this. Stay for both. Subscribe to Sacred Root Co. right now, because what follows changes how you see food forever. Number 1. Asparagus. The crown jewel that launched a fleet. Plant number 1. Once started a naval fleet. Roman emperors built fast ships, not for war, not for trade, for asparagus. They called them the asparagus fleet, designed to rush fresh spears from the fields of empire to the tables of Rome before they wilted. That is how seriously the ancient world took what most people today walk past without a second look. Here is what nobody tells you. One crown, planted correctly one time, feeds your family for 100 years. Not a decade. 1 century. Your grandparents could have planted this the day you were born, and you would still be harvesting from it today. That is not a vegetable. That is a decision that outlives you. Hippocrates documented it. Egyptian records place it at 3000 BCE. Julius Caesar demanded it served with butter. The ancient world understood something modern gardeners have completely forgotten. This plant is a long-term power source, disguised as a dinner-side dish. But here is the quiet truth about what you buy at the grocery store. Modern asparagus is not the same plant our ancestors ate. Harvested weeks early. Stored cold for days. Boiled before it reaches your plate. By the time it gets to you, decades of research suggest a significant portion of the most active compounds are already gone. The active compound asparagine, so important scientists named it after this plant, combined with rutin and inulin, has been studied across hundreds of clinical trials. One landmark study compared asparagus extract against pharmaceutical blood sugar regulators. The plant held its own. The prescription costs hundreds. The plant costs nothing after year 1. 6 to 8 fresh spears daily, raw or lightly steamed. Never boiled, always morning. Pair with extra virgin olive oil. Fat doubles the bioavailability of every fat-soluble compound in the spear. 2 forms only. That's simple. 1 crown. 1 season. 100 years of harvest. Most people will never understand what they are walking past. Number 2. Globe artichoke. The thistle that changed culinary history. Julius Caesar served this at state banquets as a deliberate show of power. Catherine de' Medici loved it so obsessively she carried it from Italy to France when she crossed the continent for a royal marriage. 1 plant. It permanently changed French cuisine. A vegetable that reshapes culinary history across 3,000 years is not a side dish. It is a force. Here is what most gardeners miss. 1 artichoke plant, established once, slowly spreads through offsets year after year. 1 plant becomes a colony. You never buy another. The same roots, feeding you for 15 years. While the supermarket charges $3 per globe. The active compound cynarin, concentrated in the leaves, has been studied across hundreds of clinical trials. Researchers compared it against statins for LDL management. Even they were surprised by what they found. The plant performed. The drug costs everything. The established plant costs nothing. But here is where most people destroy it before it works. Commercial canned artichoke hearts are processed at temperatures that eliminate the majority of cynarin. Pasteurization wipes out the prebiotic inulin. You buy the jar thinking you are getting medicine. You are getting theater. 1 medium artichoke daily, steamed whole. At lunch, never canned. Add fresh lemon juice. Vitamin C measurably increases iron absorption from every bite. Ancient cooks figured this out without a laboratory. They just kept doing what worked. Cynarin triggers the body's own bile production, improving liver detoxification within 2 weeks. Its inulin feeds beneficial gut bacteria, reducing systemic inflammation markers in controlled studies. Its polyphenol compounds protect liver cells at the level most pharmaceuticals are trying to reach artificially. Catherine de' Medici crossed the continent for this plant. Today you walk past it for a bag of chips. 1 planting. 10 years. A slowly expanding colony of free food. Number 3, rhubarb. The plant that outlives everyone around it. There are rhubarb beds in England producing right now that no one alive remembers planting. The person who put them in the ground is gone. The house changed hands 3 times. The rhubarb is still there, still producing, untended, unfed. It outlasts everything around it. Medieval spice traders paid more for Chinese rhubarb root by weight than for saffron. Not the stalks, the root. The Silk Road moved it like contraband. What we bake into pie, the ancient world treated like a controlled substance. Ancient Chinese medical texts document it going back 4,000 years. Modern researchers matched rhubarb fiber extract against pharmaceutical cholesterol supplements. The plant held its own. But supermarket rhubarb is harvested unripe and stored for weeks. A significant portion of its malic acid is gone before you buy it. Cook it in aluminum, vitamin K is eliminated instantly. Most people have never tasted real rhubarb. They have tasted a shadow of it. Ancient farmers trusted this root more than fertilizer. They were right. 3 to 4 stalks, 3 times weekly, lightly cooked, non-reactive cookware. Morning is best. Add raw honey. Natural enzymes open absorption in ways processed sweeteners cannot replicate. This is not a pie ingredient. This is medicine that makes pie. 1 crown planted once. Divides endlessly. Decades of harvests from a single purchase. Your grandchildren could say the same about what you plant this season. Number 4, horseradish. The root that refused to die. Farmers tried to destroy this plant. For years, with machinery, with chemicals. They lost. Every fragment of root left in soil becomes a new plant. Every attempt to remove it becomes a new colony. Horseradish does not surrender. It does not negotiate. It simply keeps coming back. Ancient Egyptian texts documented it by 1500 BCE. For over 2 millennia, it has sat on the Jewish Passover Seder plate as one of the sacred bitter herbs. A tradition practiced continuously for 2,000 years, not interrupted once. 1 root. 20 centuries of unbroken presence. This plant survived every empire that tried to outlast it. Modern research explained what ancient civilizations already practiced. Glucosinolates in horseradish react with its own enzyme when grated, producing isothiocyanates studied across hundreds of trials, compared against pharmaceutical antimicrobial agents, and performing comparably. The ancient world used this for protection. Science just confirmed the mechanism. But jarred commercial horseradish loses half its potency within 30 days of opening. If the jar does not make your eyes water, it has nothing left. You are buying preserved nostalgia, not medicine. 1 teaspoon freshly grated root. Raw, always raw. Grated immediately before serving. Never heated. Pair with fatty fish, isothiocyanates measurably increase omega-3 bioavailability. Isothiocyanates trigger glutathione production, the body's master antioxidant. Within 48 hours, farmers declared war on this root. The root won. 1 cutting. Planted once. Produces indefinitely. forever. Number 5. Mulberry tree. The tree that built the Silk Road. There is a mulberry tree in England planted while Shakespeare was still alive, still being harvested today. That is not gardening. That is permanence. The most valuable trade route in human history was named after silk. Silk required mulberries. Emperors who controlled mulberry groves controlled global commerce for centuries. Ancient Chinese texts from before 3000 BC document mulberry as a primary food source. The tree that built global trade is now growing forgotten in backyards everywhere. Here is what even researchers were not expecting. Mulberries contain resveratrol at concentrations far exceeding red wine. One clinical trial compared mulberry extract against metformin for blood sugar regulation. The tree matched pharmaceutical results. It has been doing this for 3,000 years without a prescription. And here is the part the industry will never solve for you. Commercial mulberries are virtually never sold fresh. They bruise instantly and cannot survive supply chains. Dried versions lose a substantial portion of their anthocyanins in processing. The only way to access what actually works is to grow the tree yourself. 1 cup fresh or half cup dried, morning, fasted state. Pair with raw walnuts. Healthy fats triple resveratrol bioavailability. Anthocyanins reduce systemic inflammation markers in long-term studies, surpassing blueberries per gram. Resveratrol measurably reduces arterial stiffness within 8 weeks of consistent use. The Silk Road was built on this tree. 5 centuries of harvest from one planting. Your great-great-grandchildren will eat from a mulberry you plant this year. Most people will never understand that. Number 6. Fig tree. The oldest cultivated food on Earth. This is the one most homesteaders walk right past. The fig is the oldest deliberately cultivated food plant in human history. Archaeological evidence places fig cultivation 11,000 years ago, predating wheat, barley, and virtually every grain by thousands of years. The fig did not come after civilization. The fig came before it. In Genesis, it is the first plant named. Greek Olympic athletes trained on figs. The prophet Micah described the perfect life as sitting under your own vine and your own fig tree. Every major civilization, on every continent that grew them, understood what we forgot. Then scientists studied it seriously, and what they found surprised them. Figs contain ficin, a proteolytic enzyme found in virtually no other common fruit. Researchers studying it against ibuprofen for inflammatory response found the fig performing comparably. Their polyphenol profile, quercetin, rutin, chlorogenic acid, places them among the most phytochemically dense fruits ever measured. 11,000 years of cultivation. Modern science is still catching up, but the commercial version is a different product entirely. Dried figs are treated with sulfur dioxide, destroying the majority of their quercetin. Processed fig products eliminate ficin entirely through heat. Sugar-coated versions are candy with a health label. The real fig carries compounds the processed version has not seen since it left the tree. 3 to 5 fresh figs, or 2 tablespoons unsulfured dried, every morning before coffee. Ficin is most active in a fasted, low-acid environment. Pair with Greek yogurt, live cultures amplify the prebiotic fiber effect, creating a synergy the ancient Mediterranean diet understood intuitively for thousands of years. Ficin measurably reduces digestive inflammation within 3 weeks of daily use. Calcium per serving exceeds milk. Polyphenol density reduces fasting blood sugar markers in 12-week studies. 2 harvests per year. From a single tree. For 200 years. 11,000 years of cultivation. 200 years of production per tree. 2 harvests a year. Your descendants will eat from a fig you plant this season, from the same roots, long after you are gone. That is not a tree. That is a living legacy. Number 7. Elderberry. The medicine chest that grew wild. Hippocrates called the elder tree his medicine chest. That quote survived 2,000 years, because every physician who came after him kept finding it accurate. The birds know it. They descend on the berries in flocks the moment they ripen. They have always known. The modern world is the only civilization in human history that forgot. Archaeological sites across Europe consistently link elderberry to human settlements going back 10,000 years. Not occasionally, consistently. Indigenous cultures across North America, Europe, and Asia developed elder traditions independently, with zero contact between each other. When separate peoples on separate continents, with no shared language, all reach the same conclusion, that is not coincidence. That is truth repeated until it cannot be ignored. Then the clinical trials confirmed it. Elderberry extract was tested against a leading pharmaceutical antiviral. It performed comparably in recovery speed. Hippocrates said it in 400 BC. The randomized controlled trials arrived 2,000 years later and agreed. Civilization did not discover elderberry. Civilization organized itself around it. But most elderberry syrups on the market are heated during production, destroying the majority of active flavonoids. Many contain 80% added sugar. The label says elderberry. The contents are syrup with a story. 1 tablespoon cold processed concentrate or half cup cooked fresh berries every morning. Never raw. Pair with raw ginger. Gingerols amplify elderberry's antiviral activity through synergistic pathways that neither achieves alone. 1 shrub. 40 to 60 pounds of berries per season. For decades. From 1 planting. 10,000 years. Most people will keep buying the dead version in a bottle. Number 8. Comfrey. The plant that feeds every plant around it. This plant reaches 10 feet underground, straight down into subsoil, pulling calcium, potassium, and phosphorus that no other plant in your garden can access. It brings those minerals to the surface every single season, automatically, without being asked. Ancient farmers trusted this plant more than fertilizer because it was better than fertilizer. Medieval herbalists called it knitbone and bruisewort, names built from generations of observed results, not theory. When Russian comfrey reached Western agronomists in the 19th century, scientists realized this plant was accomplishing through biology what factories had to manufacture chemicals to achieve. Modern research explained the mechanism. Comfrey's allantoin compound was tested against a pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory for joint pain and swelling and performed comparably in topical application. From a plant that grows freely, divides endlessly, and costs nothing after the first season. A critical note most sources skip: comfrey contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids in the root. Large-scale internal consumption is not recommended. The real power is twofold: young leaves in small cooked amounts, and leaves chopped as mulch, releasing deep-mined minerals directly into your topsoil. It feeds your garden. Your garden feeds you. 2 to 3 young leaves weekly, cooked thoroughly. Applied externally as a cold-infused oil for joints in recovery, it outperforms most pharmacy shelf options. Pair with plantain leaf in the infusion for synergistic tissue repair. Comfrey mulch measurably increases neighboring plant yields through mineral release. Every root fragment becomes a new plant. It mines the deep earth. It builds the topsoil. It makes your garden more productive every single year. Ancient farmers called it the plant that feeds every other plant. Modern agronomists confirm the mechanism: permanent, unstoppable, free. Number 9. Olive tree, the 400-year food machine. In Portugal's Alentejo region, there is an olive tree scientist dated to over 3,000 years old. It is still producing olives, still being harvested, from a tree that was alive before the Roman Empire existed. A tree that outlived every political system, every border, every civilization that formed around it, and kept producing through all of it. 3,000 years. 1 planting. In ancient Egypt, olive groves were state property, too valuable to be privately owned. In ancient Greece, cutting down an olive tree was a criminal offense. Olympic winners did not receive medals. They received olive oil in decorated amphorae, the highest honor available. The word Messiah itself traces back to the Anointed One, anointed with olive oil in the most sacred ceremony the ancient world possessed. Every major civilization you have ever studied organized itself around this tree. Then the science happened, and even researchers were not prepared. Oleocanthal, concentrated in the oil, Inhibits the same inflammatory enzyme pathways as ibuprofen at comparable doses. Oleuropein activates autophagy, the body's own cellular cleanup mechanism. One landmark study found daily olive oil consumption reduced cardiovascular mortality by 30% over 5 years. No pharmaceutical has matched that result in the same population. But here is a quiet fraud hiding on grocery shelves. Studies show the majority of commercially imported olive oil, labeled extra virgin, fails authentic standards. It has been cut with cheaper refined oils carrying none of the active compounds. The label says medicine. The bottle contains cooking oil. If there is no harvest date on that bottle, the medicine was gone before it reached you. 2 to 3 tablespoons of authentic, single estate, harvest-dated, cold-pressed extra virgin daily, always raw, drizzled on food after cooking, never heated above 180 degrees Celsius. Heat degrades oleocanthal irreversibly. Pair with fresh tomatoes. Lycopene absorption increases dramatically in the presence of olive oil fat. This is not a cooking tip. It is ancient Mediterranean food science the modern world is only now explaining. Oleocanthal measurably reduces systemic inflammation within weeks of consistent use. Daily consumption associates with a reduced risk of type 2 diabetes across large population studies. A mature olive tree at year 50 is entering its prime production phase. 3,000 years. Still producing. You plant it for your grandchildren. They harvest it for their grandchildren. One decision, 4 generations of food. Most people will never make it. Number 10, Jerusalem artichoke, the original American perennial. This plant has nothing to do with Jerusalem. The name is a corruption of girasole, Italian for sunflower, because this plant is a sunflower relative whose flowers look nearly identical. It is native to North America. Indigenous nations from the Atlantic coast to the Great Plains cultivated it for thousands of years before European contact. When explorers arrived, they found it already growing everywhere. The original American perennial food system, hidden in plain sight. Dozens of independent indigenous nations. No shared language, no shared territory, no contact with each other, independently arrived at the same conclusion about this plant. They all grew it. They all relied on it. That is not coincidence. That is the plant proving itself across thousands of years and thousands of miles. Modern research finally explained what they already knew. Jerusalem artichoke tubers contain inulin instead of regular starch. The body processes it entirely differently. One major study found daily inulin from whole food sources improved gut microbiome diversity by 42% over 8 weeks, outperforming probiotic supplement groups in the same trial. You can grow your own prebiotics. The supplement industry would prefer you didn't know that. Commercial sunchokes are harvested before peak inulin development, losing a significant portion of prebiotic potency before they reach you. High-heat cooking converts inulin to fructose, eliminating the prebiotic benefit entirely. The version that works is the fresh, locally grown, autumn-harvested tuber. The version being sold has already been compromised. 1 cup raw or lightly cooked daily, afternoon or evening, not morning. Inulin ferments in the lower gut overnight, most effectively when consumed later in the day. Add raw apple cider vinegar to the dish. Acetic acid enhances inulin fermentation and microbiome activation. 2 forms only, raw sliced in salads or lightly roasted. Jerusalem artichoke's inulin outfeeds the most clinically important gut bacteria more effectively than commercial probiotic supplements in comparative trials. Iron content rivals red meat per serving. Potassium concentration reduces hypertension markers in dietary studies. Indigenous nations on separate continents, in separate centuries, all reached the same conclusion. Plant this once, and it feeds you forever. 1 handful of tubers. An expanding colony. Indefinitely. The challenge is not getting it to grow. The challenge is deciding where you want it to stay. That is the Jerusalem artichoke problem. And it is a very good problem to have. 10 plants. 1 planting each. Harvests that run for decades, for generations, in some cases, for centuries. Step back, because the pattern here is impossible to ignore. Every single plant on this list was known deeply by the people who came before us. Not discovered by modern science, not invented by permaculture. Known. Asparagus was prized by Greek physicians and Roman emperors. Figs fed civilization for 11,000 years. Elderberries appear in Egyptian medical texts. The olive tree was so important that entire empires organized their economies around its production. These plants were not forgotten by accident. The modern food system was built on things you replant every season, rebuy every week, and depend on others to provide. Perennial food systems threaten that model. The plants that feed you longest are the ones nobody sells. The people who built lasting homesteads, lasting communities, lasting civilizations, understood something we are only beginning to relearn. The most important food you can grow is the food that keeps growing without you. True food security does not come from what you plant every spring. It comes from what you planted years ago that is still here. Every one of these 10 plants is available right now. Bare root crowns, young trees, seed packs, divisions from established plants. Most are affordable. Most ask for almost nothing beyond the first season. All of them will outlast any annual vegetable garden you have ever planted. One planting, one decision, and decades of food begin. The best time to plant these was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Now I want to know your answer. Which of these 10 perennial power plants do you already grow, and which one are you putting in the ground next? Drop both in the comments right now. We read every single one. If someone you know is building a homestead, starting their first garden, or thinking about food independence, share this video with them today. It takes 2 seconds. It might change everything. Subscribe to Sacred Root Co. if you have not already, because next week, we go even deeper. Ancient food forests that fed entire communities for centuries. The specific plant combinations that made them work. Systems that have not been replanted in over 100 years, still producing today. The ancient world never stopped growing these. We just stopped paying attention. Start now.